I have seen these flowers all over. They're growing like parasites on other plants. All of a sudden, where are they coming from?
Hey Ocean Crew, welcome back to my channel. My name is Karen and this is Spooky Flicks on Ocean Chicks Films. Tonight we're looking at the 1978 horror sci-fi remake Invasion of the Body Snatchers, based on the novel from 1955, The Body Snatchers. I saw this film back in theaters when I was 10 and I love it just as much today. Let's have a look. Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. When Elizabeth Driscoll starts complaining to her friend Mathew about her husband acting strangely, he chalks it up to marital problems. But when he sees more and more people in the area acting the same way, he begins to worry there is a bigger problem at hand. Directed by Philip Kaufman, starring Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams. I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it again right now. When I was 10, I went to a good friend's birthday party, my friend Lori, and we went to the movies. And we went in to see this animated film, but when we first got in, she said, hey, let's all go sneak into Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because I'd really rather see that one instead. And I'm so glad she did, because that was the best day ever. And I don't know if it's because we snuck in or what, but man, it was such a fun movie to see. And it still holds up today. I've watched it many times. I probably watch it every Halloween, and I love it even more every time. Let's have a better look. And I'm going to warn you right now, there will be spoilers. So if that's not cool, then just click off and we'll catch you on the next one. This film is a remake from a 50s version that started the whole thing off, and they decided in this one they would set it in San Francisco. It has an amazing cast that you connect with immediately. They have a great chemistry. Now, right off the top, we get aliens. There's this weird gel-like substance that falls to the earth, and from that grow these really weird pods, and from that grow these really beautiful flowers that have a very sweet smell that's attractive to humans. And there's something cool right off the top. The gel substance that they used was bought from a art supply store, so just some cheap art supplies. I'm expecting probably like a gel medium of some sort. They use that, they drop it all over, film it, and then the thing that we see is them showing the film footage backwards. I find that to be a really creative effect, you know? Less on the CGI, the better for me. And right after this scene, we have the next scene with our main character, Elizabeth. She's walking to work through the park, and she's played by Brooke Adams. She's walking to work and she's noticing these flowers, and that's what she does. She's a researcher. So she collects some of them to bring back to the office. And the reason behind that is because she's never seen a species like this before, or she doesn't think she's seen a species like this before, so she wants to find out what it is exactly. We also see clips of people in the park. We see these group of school children that are being taught about botany, and they're going around collecting and picking flowers. Of course, these flowers. They don't really know what's going on yet, though. And then we see this unusual shot of a priest, and he's on a swing, and he's swinging, but he has this blank look on his face, and it's really quite spooky. She also passes this fellow who's sitting on a park bench with playing the banjo, and he has his little dog with him, and you get the feeling that he's probably there every single day when she walks by. And knowing the movie and having seen it and looking back on it, all of these events are very significant. Not having watched the movie, though, you still get the feeling that there's something weird going on here. The little jingle being played on the banjo is actually a tune recorded by Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead, so that's pretty cool too, and it becomes significant down the road later also. So Elizabeth gets to work and she starts researching this flower. She can't find anything on it whatsoever, and her colleague or her boss, they're chatting, and he says, well, maybe it's just a new hybrid species that you've never seen before, you know, not that big of a deal. She thinks it's very strange, though. She ends up taking that flower home with her in a little jar, puts it on the nightstand table beside her husband's side of the bed, and in the morning, I think it's in the morning, he wakes up and he's acting really strange, like not himself, like very unemotional and odd. And she knows something's weird, but she hasn't put anything together yet. So she ends up getting together with her very good friend Mathew, played by Donald Sutherland. She hooks up with him and hangs out, and she starts telling him, you know, my husband's been acting really weird and I don't know what's going on. And Donald Sutherland's character Mathew is incredibly smitten by her. So his ears perk right up when he hears that. But being the good person that he is, he says, you know what? No, it's just marital problems. It's simple. It can't be anything really weird. Why don't you come and have a chat with my other good friend? He's a therapist. He's having a book signing party this evening, and you can meet him and talk to him. And she starts thinking, well, you think I'm crazy? He says, no, I don't think you're crazy. You just need to talk to somebody and maybe work through what's going on. That's all. He's a super nice guy and he's really smart. And the therapist's name is David. He's played by Leonard Nimoy, of all people. It's really cool seeing him in this role, actually, because it's very different from his other roles. And the reason he did it, he took on this acting job, was that he wanted to kind of shake things up a bit to get rid of that Spock image that kind of followed him his whole career. So that's pretty cool. But I think he's really good in this. I really like it. It's got such a 70s kind of feel to it. The fashion, again, the set design, the way they talk, all of it it's really cool. So it's kind of neat seeing him like that. On the way to this party, Mathew is driving Elizabeth and they're in the car together. They're downtown. It's very busy. There's lots of traffic and people around. And all of a sudden this crazy man comes running out and says, they're coming. And he stops traffic and all of a sudden they hear this squeal and screech and bang. And he's been hit by a car and killed, and they're very upset about it. They don't know what's going on. They're thinking, well, you know, something really upset him and that's unfortunate. And then they carry on to the party. But what they are not paying attention to, and what we see a little inkling of, is that half the people are very overly emotional and the other half are unemotional. And it's kind of this weird dynamic and tension that's starting to build. And the whole movie, they tried to film it in a film noir kind of look. So it's got kind of that sterile kind of feel to it. The only difference is they chose not to do it in black and white. They did it in color, and that was because the producers felt that it wouldn't go over that well, because not many people want to watch black and white anymore back then. So they did it in color, but it still has this very dark kind of mysterious, very specific sort of look, and that's kind of cool. But it's adding this tension to the movie, these people and how everybody's kind of acting around them, and they're not quite picking up on it yet. They get to this party and there's like, it's kind of like in a house, I think, and there's just all these people, or an office or something, but it just has that cozy feel to it. There's lots of people and they're all, you know, drinking cocktails and mingling and that kind of thing. And it's a book party, but it totally flashes me back to all of the art gallery openings that I've been to in my life. It's very cool. It has that real 70s feel as well. But everyone is acting strangely. Some are acting very unemotional and some are acting extremely emotional. And then they meet up with their friend, his friend Jack, who is an author as well, and he's at this party trying to get discovered, or for Leonard Nimoy's character to acknowledge him and look at his writing, that kind of thing. And it's not happening fast enough for him, so he's slowly getting all enraged with emotion, and that's kind of strange too. But you know how Jeff Goldblum acts and how he is perfect for this character, does an excellent job. So that's really cool in this too, and you're starting to get really connected to all of the characters, all of the main characters. So Mathew introduces Elizabeth to David in hopes that they can have a chat about her problems, and he's helping somebody else, and this other woman is very frantically complaining about how people around her are not normal. There's something wrong here, and he's not buying it. And Elizabeth agrees with her and realizes that there is a lot going on here and other people are seeing it too, and no one's listening. And then eventually Mathew and Elizabeth and Jack end up connecting together and leaving the party. And there's another example of the film noir. As they're going down this alleyway, they have the shadows are kind of cast on this cement wall, and you see that before you see them. You can hear the clip-clop of their feet. Michael Chapman is the cinematographer for this movie, and kudos to you, Michael, because I think you did a good job here. Then each of them ends up heading home, and Jack goes to the business where his wife owns. His wife's name is Nancy, and she has a mud bath business, and he walks in there, and that's really cool. That flashes me right back to that time period too. I'm sure they still have that kind of thing now, but it's just really neat visuals in there too. It adds a lot. It's kooky and quirky. I think it adds a lot of creepiness to the whole thing. She's got a couple of clients that she's helping in the establishment, and they're book lovers, of course, so they're all talking about different books, and she mentions two books, Worlds in Collision and Star Maker, so that's kind of relevant to the whole book, like the whole thing that's going on right now too. And it's just kind of a really neat place. It really adds to the whole movie. And anyways, while there, of course, Jack's very upset because he didn't get acknowledged for his book, and he's complaining to his wife, and she's trying to calm him down, and she's trying to wrap up the business, get everybody out so she can close up and they can get the heck out. Someone gave her one of those flowers, and the mud baths are such that people are laying in them and falling asleep. So anyways, without them knowing, in another little area of this business, there is this body forming, and they find it and they freak out, and it's got like sort of a webbing covering it, and it's not fully formed. It's like this strange dead body basically, and they absolutely lose it, and then they turn their backs, they freak out, and it disappears, and they're not sure where it went, and they're not sure whether they saw it. And then they get together with Mathew and Elizabeth after and say that this happened, and that kind of pulls everything together. But before that happens, Elizabeth ends up getting dropped off at home, and she really realizes her husband, there's something totally wrong. The next day, he is taking out the trash, and it's a very creepy scene, actually. If you've seen the whole movie, you'll understand. I didn't catch it when I watched it the first time, but he's actually dumping the garbage into the trash compactor, and he's unemotional, you know, and she's thinking it's really strange, and he doesn't want to talk about it, and there's ash that kind of floats as he dumps the trash can in there, and it's creepy. Elizabeth ends up knowing there's something wrong with her husband, so she has to leave, and she goes to be with Mathew and try to figure out what's going on. And Mathew tries to, you know, call the authorities, call the government, call the police, call whoever will listen to say, you know, that there's something weird going on here. It needs to be investigated. They don't really get anywhere with it, but they get away. They end up hooking up with Jack and his wife Nancy. And Nancy, by the way, is played by Veronica Cartwright. I don't think I said that in the beginning. They end up going back to see David, the therapist, played by Leonard Nimoy. They go to see him and complain to him about it, and he acts weird. And they very quickly realize that he's been changed, or he's in on it, or something weird's going on, because he's trying to get them to get rest and go to sleep. And they realize that that's when this whole thing happens, when they fall asleep near the plant. Somehow the plant takes over their body and clones them, and the alien creature looks like them but takes over their body, and their natural body disintegrates into dust, into the ash. Remember I told you about the trash compactor? That's what's really creepy about that. So they end up on the run, you know, trying to escape everything, trying to find a place that would be safe, that they can get some answers and get away from it so that they're not killed. They talk about it, and they figure out that if they act emotionless, they can perhaps walk through the people safely to get away from all the people, to find help or to figure out a solution to the problem. This is where the tension gets incredibly high, and it's so tense and so crazy. It's awesome. And when they're walking through the people, they're doing really well and everything's going good. And then Elizabeth sees the banjo guy and his dog have, in some weird twisted science fiction-y way, fused together. The dog's the body and the guy is the head of the dog. This image, for me, since I was 10, I always think of this thing when I see one of those dogs. so crazy. I love that scene so much. It's the one where you gasp, you freak out, and then you laugh because you're just so creeped out by the whole thing. It's awesome. And when she sees that, she screams. And of course, all of these alien pod people know that she's not one of them, that she's human still. And they all point to her and have this weird shrieking sound coming out of them saying, "Get her." And then in the background with the dog running past, you hear that banjo playing again. So that's really funny. I love that scene so much. Another scene that I like a lot in this film is when the four of them are together, they begin to sort of drift off a little bit and the body pod people start to form in the backyard of each of them. And I think it's Mathew takes a shovel and they wake up and they realize that they've got to stop the process. And he grabs a shovel and he starts to hack them apart with the shovel. It's so grotesque. It's so good. Such a good scene. The body horror is amazing. I just love that. And no CGI either. And the musical score that goes together with that is really cool too. The whole movie has an incredible music actually. But the score for that, I'm not sure what it was, but it reminds me of a baby monitor. Or sorry, not a baby monitor, but when you do the ultrasound to listen to the baby's heartbeat, that that sound. That's totally what that reminds me of, and that makes it really creepy. And it's kind of neat because these things are being born, you know, so it's kind of similar. It might have been what they used. I couldn't find that, but it's very creepy to say the least. Ben Burt and Denny Zietland do the musical score and all the sound effects and everything. So wow, they've done a fantastic job here. It's very different from other movies that I've seen, and the squeal that the pod people make when they're ratting somebody out is really horrifying too, especially in the movie theater with a big screen in the dark room all around you. That apparently was done with a whole bunch of different elements put together. So that's kind of neat too. Okay, so now all four friends are together. They're kind of got away somewhat, but they're being chased and they're just booking it. They don't know where they're going to, but they're trying to get away to safety. We see all kinds of cool camera angles and things, and this sort of darkness, and you really feel like you're running along with them being chased as well, and that adds to all the tension. So they eventually get to the dockyards where there's the ships, and they're thinking they're going to be able to get away. And there's this huge warehouse, and they discover that there's massive numbers of pods being created in these warehouses, and that the ships are transporting them obviously all over the world. And so it's very science fiction-y, hopeless kind of situation. Helicopters come out, and Jack decides that he's going to sacrifice his life as a distraction. He's going to run screaming to distract them so that the rest of them can get away and they, you know, take care of his wife kind of thing. But anyways, it all kind of goes goofy, and you know, one by one it all kind of goes bad, and that's how that movie goes. You know, as usual, what you would expect. What was interesting though is they all kind of get turned, fall asleep and get turned kind of thing. And the last person is Jack's wife, Nancy. She's the last person to live. And she actually didn't know until they were filming it what was going to happen. She didn't realize that Mathew was going to turn and point at her and make that screeching, screaming sound. She didn't know. So her reaction was totally genuine, and that's really cool. I didn't know that until afterwards. I almost want to watch it one more time just to see that reaction, but they kept it a secret, and that's how they played it out, and I think that's really neat. Alright, so my favorite scene in the movie by far is the banjo dog. I love him. I think of, whenever I see those kinds of dogs, I always think of that clip in the movie. It makes me giggle. And another fun fact, when Elizabeth has that scene where she's rolling her eyes really weird, that was actually filler, because the director said if we don't put something in that scene, the studio will just cut the scene because they need to have content. So this film came out on December 22nd, 1978, which is weird. It was like a Christmas weekend movie. Strange movie to pick for strange time to pick to release that movie, I think. But very cool that it still did very well. Anyway, When I was a kid growing up, I always used to bug my mom. I always wanted to go Christmas Day to see the movies. I thought that would be a really fun thing to do, and she would always say no because we had to have family dinner and that kind of thing. But I think it's neat that it did really well, so obviously there's a lot of people out there that felt the same way that I did. Speaking of the money, the film had a budget of $3.5 million and it made $24.9 million at the box office, so it did really well actually. I mean, back then that was a lot of money, and it did good considering it came out that weekend as well. The director for this film was Philip Kaufman, and he did things like The Right Stuff, Quills, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, that kind of thing. And this movie was adapted from the book from 1955 called The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, and it was made into a movie a year later from that one in 1956. That's the original movie. I haven't seen that one yet. Have you guys? Let me know in the comment section below. I kind of think I'd like to see it. Apparently it's pretty good too. But I really loved this one, so I don't know. And apparently there's a lot of cameos in this movie with people, actors from the original film as well. Like Kevin McCarthy, who plays Dr. Bennell in the first movie, he is the old man running saying, "They're here" in this movie. And Don Siegel plays a taxi driver in this one. And remember the priest swinging on the swing? Well, that guy is Robert Duvall. I didn't know that the first time I watched it, so it's kind of neat to look for those little things. I love all the little hidden gems in films that they slip in. They're kind of fun when you start researching it. This is a funny story. So when they were filming out on the street, there was a naked homeless man, and he was very upset they were filming, I guess, so he shouted out, "The first film was better than this one." There was also another film adaptation in 1993 called Body Snatchers. It's trash. I don't recommend watching that whatsoever. It's not good. I wanted the Invasion of the Body Snatchers as a DVD as a gift. You know, one year someone asked me and they bought me Body Snatchers instead, and yeah, it's not good. It's not good. And this movie has been noted as one of the greatest remakes in movie history, and I have to agree. I think it's pretty darn good. It's up there anyways. If you like science fiction, you like horror, body horror, that kind of thing, I think you'll like this movie. So I really enjoyed this film. I highly recommend it, and for my review, I'm gonna give it 5 shark bites out of 5 because I think it's that good. It's a classic. You should have a look. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you've seen it, if you haven't yet, go watch it. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up because it helps me out a lot, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see me do more movie reviews. And by all means, suggest the ones that you want me to do down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear. I'll put them on a list. I can't promise I'll get to them in the next time, but I will do my best if it fits in with what we're doing here. I love hearing your suggestions. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I absolutely love you all, and we'll see you again on the next one. Bye guys.